Here's how to set up a chart. No time to waste. Let's dive in. If you take the time to learn how to do this, then you're not only going to understand my videos better, but rather you'll also understand other price analysts' videos as well. And that will allow you to do better in crypto and be more profitable. This is a very important step in your journey in crypto. You're doing the right thing. This is what we're going to cover. We're going to start off with the easy stuff, dark color theme, and other basic settings with the candles and the chart. Dark color theme, there are two ways to do it, and this whole video I would strongly recommend setting it up on a Mac or a laptop or a PC. I'm not teaching you how to do this on the phone. I really don't know how to do it. For dark color theme, all you really need to do is right click and hit color theme. Let me right click over here, color theme, dark, check dark, but my background is a gradient. So now I'm going to either right click and click settings down here, or you can simply click the wheel that's up here all the time within your trading view and go to appearance. Your background can be solid and you can pick black. I kind of recommend that, or some very dark gray. Perhaps one of the grays above the blue and the purple might work for you. My eyes prefer dark. You can set up the way you want it. Now, if you go with the dark color, whether it's a solid or a gradient, so the gradient colors, you just pick two colors and it mixes it. It's that simple. You can play around with it. I believe the second color goes towards the bottom and the first color goes towards the top. It's really simple, but here's the tricky thing with the appearance and how to get things right. You see these lines behind it. You see the lines that go this way and up and down. You can barely see them. You don't want them to be too distracting. For example, if I make my vertical lines white, now that is really distracting. You can't do much like that. So there are two ways to make them not so white. When you click the color itself, options open up, whether it's the color and the opacity down here. So you can click white and move the opacity down to where you can barely see them, or you can turn the opacity all the way up and turn it to a dark gray color that doesn't look that distracting, but you can still see it. And that's the way I did it there. And just to show you that it's about the same thing, this one I've chosen white and I have the opacity down and it looks almost the exact same as the other colored gray that I chose. So there are two ways to do that. So again, I'm on settings within the appearance tab. See how this blue selects different areas? So within appearance, here is what I have. I really don't know what all these settings mean, but I'm just going to show you what I have. Session breaks, I do not have checked. Scales text, I have 12. Watermark is the thing behind price that you can see right here. See how it says BTC? That's the watermark. Also, for the watermark, you can do the same color trick that I showed you with the vertical lines. Either pick the color that you want that's not so distracting, or pick white. Now you can see it very clearly, but then turn down the gradient so it's not that distracting, something to that effect, so it's not totally in your way, and it helps you remember what chart you're on. But if you don't need reminders, you're not sharing it with anybody else, then you can just uncheck watermark. Navigation buttons and all these other settings in the appearance tab, you can just look at what I have here, pause it, and try to make sure yours says the same. Now within settings, once again, so I'm still in settings, go up to the wheel, I'm going to pick symbol. I'm just going to show you exactly what I have. I'm not going to explain every single one. So I have unchecked the first box within symbol. So I'm on the symbol tab within settings. Chart bars and previous close I have unchecked. Body, borders, wick, last price I have checked, and these are the colors that I have. And then the next one that I have checked is called pre-post market price line, and everything else is unchecked. Down here, I have pre-post market hours background is black, and I have mine set to New York down here. Those are the settings for symbol. Now for status line, I have everything but one thing checked. That's the indicator arguments that is nested under indicator titles. So I have indicator titles, but not indicator arguments. There are only two selections within all these things that are checked. For symbol, you have description, ticker, or ticker description. I have simply chosen description, and then background, I have that checked and I have it somewhere in the middle. So let's go to scales. On this first part, I have only 3 checked. I have the first, second, and the 5th checked. And then scroll down, I have 4 in a row, starting with no overlapping labels down to plus button. 2 options at the bottom, date format and scales placement. Scales placement I have set to auto, and date format you can pick however you like to see dates. So whatever makes most sense to your brain. I press OK. Appearance we've already done. Trading, I have the first one checked. So you see how it says general up here and appearance down here. So under general, I only have the first one checked. Under appearance, I have all of them checked, and the 2 selections within those check marks are over here. First one I have selected as money. The second one I have selected as left. So under appearance, they're all checked with the 2 options being money and left. For events, I have the first three checked. That's how I have them set. So let's move on to the next part. Logarithmic, not linear. This is actually pretty important. So you see down here where my cursor is. So my cursor is going to be down here, but off the chart. Okay. Down here where this is, I almost always use log chart. For using 5-minute charts and things, you know, where you're really zoomed into price, you can go ahead and take off log. I just keep it on log because when you're zoomed in, it's almost the exact same as linear. So I permanently just have mine on log. I do not have auto checked because when I scroll around and do stuff, I don't like what it does to my chart. So I prefer just log on. It's really important though. It makes a big difference within your analysis. All right, now let's set up our EMAs and MAs. We're going to concentrate our eyes up at this top part where it turns black, but I can't draw on it, okay? Up above these arrows, this is going to be a lot of our focus now. Right where my cursor is right here, it has an FX button. It looks, so if it's hard to see for you, it looks like this. Yours might say indicators and FX all at the same time. But since I have so many time frames, so you see like 5-minute, 3-minute, all that stuff, it smashes it down and it abbreviates it, indicators, into FX. But you should still see an FX somewhere, so you're gonna hit that. And what you're going to type in here, so all these stars you're not gonna see unless you've already starred things. But once you bring something up, before you click it, hit the star button so that the next time you click FX, it's already there. So you're gonna type in exactly what you see here until you see it pop up on your screen. Sometimes you have to type the whole thing. Sometimes you only have to type in 4 characters. What you're looking for is it's made by unknown unicorn. That's what you're looking for. So you use, so start typing in 5 exponential until it pops up on your screen. Again, you might have to type the whole thing. Now, before you click it, hit star. And when you do click it, what happens is it'll show up on your screen, and it doesn't look like the settings I have it on, but it'll look something like this to you. And the way you change things is now you can see that the settings for this is up here. So for example, stochastics, the way I use them, they show up down here. The settings button for stochastics is somewhere over on this, in this direction, but anything that stays in your chart and is not nested below it, okay, but things that are in your chart, indicators, you'll find the wheel, the eyeball button up there. For any indicator, it has, see how this is an eyeball here? So when you do that, see how they disappear, reappear, okay? But the settings is where you're going to change everything, and that's what we're going to do. So you've clicked it, you start it, you've clicked it, and now when you click FX, it should show up automatically right there now, okay? So now we're going to go change the settings within the EMA. So now there are 3 tabs here: inputs, style, visibility. We're going to start with inputs. Okay, so these are the inputs that I have for mine. So there are 5 of each. You can tell that even though there are 10 things, it's set of 5 and 5. So 5 EMAs, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then the E drops off here, and it's just MA. They are different. The MAs move a lot slower than the EMAs, because the EMAs, essentially, they're tucked closer to price, so you can essentially front run the signals on MAs. The numbers are slightly different. For example, the first one, the first EMA is 10, and first MA is 10. Yes, those are the same, but the next one, it changes. For 2 and 2, it's 21 and 20. And again, the reason is this 21 moves faster than the 20, so you start increasing the numbers to a certain point, right? There is one exception. For the 4, I have the 100 MA, but I use the 89 EMA. That's the only one that should be smaller. And that's just because that's what more people look at. And you can just pause this and type in the same numbers. Now I'm on the style tab. In order to make any changes, you have to have them all checked. Because if something's not checked, you can't click this down here, and we're going to be modifying stuff. So you might want to make sure they're all checked. Click the first one and do something to the effect of, pick, if you want it the same color scheme as I have, click red for both 10s and take the opacity. See this? I'm scrolling this. Take the opacity all the way over and click the thickest button. And you don't have to click OK, because that'll force you out of the whole thing. What you can do here is, going back to the style tab, click red, or click the color, click the first red, bring the opacity over, click that, and then just click somewhere off of the color, like up here. And then go to the next 10 and do the same thing. Red, thick, but instead of all the way over, you're gonna want your opacity somewhere in the middle, and I'll show you why here a little later. Next is yellow. So again, press yellow, opacity all the way up, and thickest line and click away, but not clicking OK. So you don't have to click back in. And then blue, same deal. Pick a blue color, opacity line. I'm not going to walk you through that. And then for the MAs, I picked the same exact color for each. So you see how the second EMA is the same color as the second MA, but the only difference is the opacity is somewhere in the middle for the MAs. And then when you press OK, what you'll see is more like what I have here. You'll have thicker lines and it'll look very similar to what I have open. Now I go in, and to show you the difference here, I will uncheck everything but the two red ones. So MA1 and EMA1. The reason why this is important is MAs crossing above EMAs is a bearish sign particular to larger time frames. And again, very important to know, particular to larger time frames, all right? Don't be using signals on the 1 hour chart for this necessarily. But you can see here is, I can tell that the MA passed above the EMA here. That's a bearish sign. And it got the top exactly. I mean, you can see how good of a signal that is. So I'm not going to go too far into detail on how to use everything, because that's what my content is for. But this is more of an educational video. So you can see how this bearish cross, it didn't get the top perfectly. It was about a week off. Using things like the daily and the weekly to see when the same type of MA passes the EMA of the same time frame, like the 10 and the 10, or you can go to the 21 and the 20 to see what that looks like. Those crosses are pretty bearish usually, and that doesn't mean go 25x leverage short or anything like that, because sometimes the move takes a while. But I mean, here you can see how the dull one, so the dull one's the opacity that we drug to the middle, so you can tell the difference, but they're both yellow, right? So that's what we got going on there, and that's why I changed the opacity. Now we're going to jump into number 4, the RSI. What you can do now to be less distracted, you can hit the eyeball button, or just totally, I don't know if I would X out, because if you hit X here, once you go back in, it'll reset your settings. And at the end of this video, I'm going to show you how to save them. So don't hit X, but maybe hit eyeball so we can kind of keep our eyes on the price here, but it'll still be there. Just hit the eyeball. And if you want, you know, all the EMAs back on, you can do that at a later time. So now we go back up to this FX button, and remember, for you, it might say indicators. Now we're going to type in exactly what we see right here where my cursor is: Crown Trading RSI plus EMA plus control zones. And the pluses do not have spaces. So you start typing exactly what you see here until it pops up and you see it made by Crypto-Crown, Crypto Crown. That is who made it. It needs to be made by the same person. So start typing that in. And then when it pops up, you know, it might not pop up for you until right here, for example. I don't know. But before you click it, hit star and then click it. And you'll see it show up at the bottom. I'm going to undo mine because I'm going to show you what my settings are for this. Now you can see, because this RSI is nested below the chart, it's below the chart, not in the chart. Therefore, the settings and the eyeball are down here. So I'm hovering over here until I can see the eyeball on the wheel. I'm going to click the settings. These are the settings that I have for this. There are 3 tabs here: inputs, style, visibility. I'm going to go to inputs. You just put 22 and 12. Can you use different ones? Sure, but that is within my analysis on a daily basis what I'm using. So that's easy. The second one, style. I have everything checked, and you can just take a screenshot and take a look at how I have this set up. And I will go into detail on these last 2 in a minute, because those could get a little tricky, and it's important to have these last 2 right. Something I went like a whole year without doing right. These are the colors that I have, and within the colors, I have I have thick lines and opacity almost all the way up, and upper line, I guess I have the opacity all the way up and thin. But you can just kind of mess around with that and make, you know, draw the opacity up. And if you want a line thicker, go in and make the line thicker. Most of these, I have the opacity all the way up. And then take a look at these numbers on the side here. You want to make sure these numbers are the same. So the first number goes with upper line, second one lower line. So what that means is this dotted thing here, and the lower line is, I believe, this guy right here. So you want those numbers to be the same. In order to expand this on a computer, you just double click. You double click this area, it makes it bigger. In the normal settings, this green box is not very green. And especially if you change the background color like we did earlier, you're going to need to increase the opacity of this section, or else you're not going to be able to see it very well. So I'm going to go to the settings, or I'll unexpand it by double clicking again. I will hit the wheel. I will go down here, and you can see that I've just picked a green color. And so look at the bottom of my chart as I move this. See that? It's way too green. It's not green enough. Somewhere in the happy middle right there. Looks good. And again, I'm not going to hit OK, because that'll take me out. I'll click somewhere up here to make that go away. hit the red one for the red zone down here. Look, it's way too red. See how that turned way red? So I have mine somewhere opacity around 30, something like that. So you can still see the things go through it. Now we'll go to visibility. These are the stock settings, so you probably don't have to change any of this, but as you go to yours, just make sure it looks the same as mine, and you could pause this, do whatever you want. Number 5, stochastics. Go back up here to the FX or indicators tab, click it, and it's going to be just stochastic. It's the base stock one of TradingView. No one particular made it. This one is from TradingView. So it's the first one that just says stochastic, and make sure you star it before you click it. And when you click it, it should show up at the bottom. And again, I would not X out of this RSI yet if you made the settings, because we're going to save it here at the end. So you might hit hide or just leave it there, whatever you want to do. But we're going to focus down here on the stochastics. I'm going to click the wheel here for the settings, and I'm going to go to inputs. There are 4 options and 1 check mark. I have the gaps checked. I have it on chart, time frame chart. Then the next 3 options, I have 14, 1, and 3. Again, you can play with these settings if you have a different preference. Going to the second tab, style. I have everything checked, and within, so the blue line that moves the fastest, you can change the width of it. And actually, I might go ahead and change the width on mine so you can see the difference. So look down here where my cursor is, kind of see how the line, so that's too much for me. I mean, maybe the second or the third one looks pretty good. I typically just have it on the thin line, but my eyes kind of like the second or third one a little bit better. You can play around with it. And then changing the opacity, I would put the opacity all the way up if I were you. And then the other 2 options here, upper band, you could play around with this as well. These numbers create the line. It's the line what counts. And so I have it set as 80 and 20. The background, you can play with that as well, but this is the background that I got. And I have precision to default. Last tab, visibility. These are the stock settings to my knowledge. However, you can double check that yours looks the same. Everything is checked, and you can make sure the first column is all 1s and the second column has all this in here. Number 6, Bollinger Bandwidth Percentile or BBWP. Go back up and hit FX or indicators. You're going to type in this, what you see right here, also made by the caretaker. You're going to start typing in Bollinger Bandwidth, and it might pop up before you type all that. But once you see it, you want to star it. So Bollinger Bandwidth. So, however much you have to type till you see it, it's made by the caretaker. Before you start, make sure it's made by the same person. Hit the star button. So here, you'll have to star it just like that. Then you click it. I believe I have the stock settings on here, but again, since it's nested below the chart, I'm going to the wheel here, and I'm going to go to inputs, and I think this is the stock settings. I don't believe I've changed anything. So you can just look to see what I have on this first chart. One thing to note, the MA2 type, I don't have on there. I've unchecked that, but you can check that if you like to see that. And these are all the other settings. Look back is 252, and color type is spectrum. Spectrum is blue, green, red. And you can play with these settings, extreme high 98, extreme low 2, for example, at the bottom. So down to style, I have everything checked. And I believe the stock settings have thin lines and opacity put all the way up for these lines. But note that these numbers here, so I have 50 and 100 under the tab of style. Visibility, again, just pause this video and make sure everything's checked. First column is 1s and the second column matches these numbers. Number 7, switching time frames to see different candles. This might be too basic for some of you. However, just know there is a way to see more time frames, especially if you don't have the free version of TradingView. But even with the free version, you can play around with this. So see all my time frames up here where my cursor is moving? There is an arrow next to it. Okay, an arrow. Click that arrow, and you might have to scroll down, not as far as I do, but you can add stuff. If you wanted to add something like a 7-day chart, you would hit 7 and click day and add. And when you do that, now 7 days comes up, but it's not starred. So the star means it shows up here. It goes from 5-day to week. If I star it, now 7 days is up here between 5 days and a week. I don't want that on there. I'm just going to take that off. You don't have to use the same time frames as I do, but if you do have a paid for version or just TradingView allows you to do it, I would strongly recommend putting the 12-hour on there and the 2-day and starring them. I would strongly recommend those 2 time frames because it helps you understand whale games better, because whales are setting traps more on the normal time frames like the 4-hour and the daily and the weekly. Those more odd time frames in specific regard to candlestick formation and EMAs. It allows you to anticipate those whale games a little bit more, in my humble opinion. Whenever you switch the time frames, these indicators down here will change to the time frame. So look at the indicators. Now they look totally different, right? So make sure you're switching time frames, and all the indicators that you're using will give you totally different signals. Next, I'm going to jump into saving template and how to get around the limitation of having 3 indicators only for the free version. So essentially you can have 9 and 12 different indicators, but on one screen at any time, you only have 3. But in order to see the other ones, you just click one button and it automatically pulls different ones up. So I'm going to show you how to do this real quick. If you followed along here and you've set up your chart like mine, well, TradingView told you that you have too many. So if that is the case and you're like, shit, how do I keep following along? Again, all you have to do is click the X, and then you'll have to go back, reset that one up, and save the template with only 3. Go back on this video, reset that up, and save a new template with Bollinger Band with percentile, something to that effect. But as you're saving your first template, the way I do it for my first template, I don't have Bollinger Band. So now I only have EMAs, RSI, and stochastics. That's 3. I only have 3 indicators, and this is my EMA standard, my E button right here, and I'm going to show you how to set that up. You don't have any of this up here on yours, but you do have this chart that has a squiggly line, and if that's too small, what it looks like is it looks like bars like this, like uneven bars with a squiggly line on top, and that symbol might be next to the actual words indicators because you don't have so many things smashed in here. So it's abbreviated it for me, but you're going to want to click that symbol or the word indicator with the symbol. And if you have set up the EMAs like I showed you, and the RSI and the Stokes, if you have those 3, for example, what you'll do is save indicator template, type the name, just like maybe put EMA standard, you know, something like that, and save. And then if you do something to the effect of you exit out of one of them, for example, your EMAs. So now that you've hit save, now I can exit out. If I went back to EMAs, look, they're totally changed. See how it didn't get the settings? But since I saved that template, all I have to do is click that little button. Then when I hover over it, it tells me the thing that I named it. I named mine EMA standard. It just picked the first letter. Try to make sure the way you label this, it has a different, starts with a different letter. I click E, and now my settings come back automatically. And I have these 3. If you want to use something totally different, for example, on this one right here, I have the Bollinger Band BBWP. So if ever I'm looking at a chart and I wanted to, on that same time, so say I'm on the 12-hour chart on Bitcoin, I'm doing an analysis, I want to use the BBWP, all I have to do is come up here and click V. And I actually get a smorgasbord of other stuff as well, even though my eyes are only focused on this, but it'll pull up how I saved it. So on this one, I have a couple of other indicators, and I guess since we're doing this, I might as well show you what those are, because these indicators are really cool, and you might as well have them on one of your set templates so you don't have to go back and keep clicking and changing things, right? So save it as a template, especially this volume profile. Sometimes people put really interesting settings for different type of volume profiles. A lot of YouTubers use them. So let me show you what that is real quick. I like the one I have on there, but most YouTubers simply use a visible range. So this is what most YouTubers use. And you can go to the settings and, you know, look on Reddit or Google, hey, what settings should I use? The inputs is you can really change how it looks by doing something with the inputs, the volume, the row size. You can make it smaller, bigger. So I just use the base stock settings for it. I think most YouTubers do too, but you can get fancy with it. And if you don't like it going into your price like this, you can use the settings to move it around. But if you do that and you don't save it as a template, the next time you open it, you lost all the time you spent inside putting in your settings. So let's say that you've chosen that one, you pick visible range, and it is the stock setting of TradingView, so there is no name. So just type in visible range until it pops up on your screen, star it, click it, and then the next one I have on here is Bollinger Bands Fibonacci ratios. It's a really cool indicator. I don't use it a ton, but you can start typing that in. Bollinger Bands Fibonacci. That one, you want to star it. It's by 𝘾𝙤𝙤𝙣 with about 5,125 likes as at the time of this recording, but it's by 𝘾𝙤𝙤𝙣. You star it, then click it. It should show up on your screen. You should see these squiggly lines right here. And then if you don't have BBWP pulled up, all you have to do, since you've already started, if you're following along, go ahead and click Bollinger Band with percentile. So now you have 3 indicators on your chart. So I'm going to get rid of my RSI. You have 3 indicators. Now you can go to save indicator templates, this signal here. And remember, it's the one that looks like a chart with a squiggly line over it to save the templates. You're going to click that, hit save indicator template, name it something like Bollinger Bands, whatever you want to do, and you hit save. And here's one thing that I forgot to mention, and you can go in and I'll show you how to modify this here in a minute. So when you save your templates, and I didn't say this the last time, there are 2 options here. It is important to leave them unchecked. The remember symbol means anytime you click the template up here, it will go back to Bitcoin specifically. So if you were looking at Veracity or Ethereum and you just wanted to look at the Bollinger Bands or the BBWP and you clicked your setting up here, like the V for me, it would go to Bitcoin. So you don't want that check. Remember interval, the same situation, but with the time frame, it'll flip you back to the exact time frame in which you set it. So I don't like either of them switched because whatever I have it on, I want it to stay on that time frame so I can see the Bollinger Bands or the volume profile on that time frame, and I want it for that symbol. Therefore, I don't want to check these. So if you did check them for the last one, I'll show you how to redo it. So I would go to EMA standard, go here. I would say save indicator template. And if you have them checked like this, uncheck them. Now you should have a drop down box here. Click it, click the one that you accidentally had them checked, and then save. And if you do that, the next little pop-up screen should say, do you want to override this? Just click yes, and then you're done. And so now you technically have 6 different indicators on the free version. You have 3 here under this template. And if you save the volume 1, volume profile and all that, now you have another 3. If you had another 3 types of indicators like MACD, whatever you like to use, then you can save another template. I put the time in to teach you this, so at least before you get out of here, hit that like button and leave me a quick comment such as, hey, this was great. Or if you have a question, I wasn't clear about something, let me know in the comment section, because even if you're looking at this in 2024, let's say I haven't died yet, hopefully knock on wood, I'm still YouTubing, all that stuff. It doesn't matter if the video is old, I can still see your comment. It comes up as fresh on my comment section. So leave me a comment, even if you're a future Tillian coming to me, not in the year 2021 or 2022. I'm recording this in before Christmas in 2021. Leave me a comment if something's not clear, you have a question. Don't expect an answer right away. However, do expect that I will try to answer your question, and it won't be a waste of time to ask a question within the comment section, but that would also help out the algo. So if you don't have a question, leave me a quick comment. And if you're not subscribed, hit subscribe and smash the bell, because a lot of my content is time sensitive, and that allows me to deliver time sensitive info for you. So my Twitter handle, 𝐾𝐢𝐬𝐼𝐻𝑣𝐺2, is my handle. It's my name with the number 2 afterward. And at the time of this recording, I conduct 8 to 10 video live chats a week within my Discord, where my community members turn on their microphone and or their camera sometimes, and they ask me questions live during the hour slots, and links to that are in the description section of my videos. At the time you're watching this, if you're coming in the future, this link might not be the same that you're seeing by the blue arrow. So what you'd want to do if you wanted to check that out is go to my recent videos and look at the link that I use there. Thanks for watching. You just got Timified worldwide. Peace.